What you're about to discover will destroy everything you believe about being a good person. Here's a question that will haunt you. Why do the nicest people you know struggle the most? Why do generous friends get betrayed by those they help? Why do honest, hard-working employees get passed over for promotions while their manipulative colleagues climb the corporate ladder? The answer will make you question every single thing society has taught you about goodness, kindness, and moral behavior. This is the cold, brutal truth that Niccolo Machiavelli tried to warn humanity about 500 years ago, and it's more relevant today than ever before. The cold strategist studies power dynamics that most people refuse to acknowledge, the uncomfortable realities that lurk beneath the surface of human interaction. What you're about to learn isn't popular wisdom. It's not the feel-good advice you'll find in most self-help books. It's not comfortable to hear, but it's absolutely necessary if you want to survive and thrive in a world that rewards strategic thinking over blind kindness. In the next 15 minutes, you'll understand exactly why your goodness is being weaponized against you, how kind people become victims of their own virtue, and most importantly, how to transform your natural goodness from a weakness into your greatest strategic advantage without becoming the villain in your own story. But first, you need to be completely honest with yourself about what you're ready to confront. Drop "ready for the truth" in the comments if you can handle what's coming next. Let's examine a real-world scenario that plays out in offices around the world every single day. There are two employees working at the same company, with similar qualifications and experience. Sarah represents the archetypal good person. She always helps her colleagues with their projects, even when she's overloaded with her own work. She stays late to cover for team members who leave early. She volunteers for extra assignments without being asked. She never complains about unfair treatment or additional responsibilities dumped on her desk. She's reliable, consistent, and genuinely cares about her team's success. Mark represents a different approach entirely. He sets clear boundaries around his time and energy. When colleagues ask for help, he evaluates whether assisting them aligns with his priorities and capacity. He says no when he's overloaded, and he doesn't feel guilty about it. He focuses primarily on his own projects and career advancement. He's pleasant and professional, but he doesn't sacrifice his own progress for others' convenience. Who received the promotion when the management position opened up? Mark. Every single time this scenario plays out, it's Mark who advances while Sarah remains stuck in her current role. Why does this happen? Because Sarah unknowingly trained everyone around her to see her as a resource rather than a leader. Her consistent availability made her indispensable as a support system, but invisible as a potential authority figure. Her goodness became her professional ceiling, creating a reputation that limited her growth rather than enhancing it. This isn't an isolated case or an unfortunate coincidence. This represents a systematic pattern that repeats across industries, relationships, and social dynamics. If you don't understand how this mechanism works, you'll continue to experience the frustration of working harder than everyone else while watching others receive the rewards you deserve. Machiavelli identified this phenomenon as fundamental to human nature, and his observations remain accurate today. Here's the first cold truth that most people never want to acknowledge. Predictable kindness creates exploitable weakness in every relationship dynamic. When someone consistently says yes to requests, what happens to the perceived value of their agreement? It becomes completely worthless because it's guaranteed. When someone never pushes back against unreasonable demands, what happens to others' respect for their boundaries? It disappears entirely because those boundaries have never been tested or enforced. Your consistency and kindness becomes a psychological cage that others build around you. People begin calculating their interactions based on your predictable responses. They know exactly what you'll tolerate, exactly how far they can push before meeting resistance, exactly what you'll never fight back against. This creates a dynamic where your goodness becomes their convenience and your reliability becomes their entitlement. Think about this strategically for a moment. Machiavelli wrote that he who wishes to be obeyed must know how to command respect. But how can anyone command genuine respect if they've systematically trained others not to give it? Research data supports this uncomfortable reality. Leaders who demonstrate moderate agreeableness consistently outperform highly agreeable individuals by 22% in salary negotiations, project leadership opportunities, and career advancement metrics. The marketplace rewards strategic kindness over unlimited availability. If you've ever felt completely invisible, despite working harder than everyone around you, despite being the most helpful person on your team, despite sacrificing your own needs for others' benefit, type invisible in the comments. You're not alone in this experience, and understanding why it happens is the first step toward changing it. The second cold truth challenges everything you've been taught about generosity and availability. Abundance destroys value, while scarcity creates it. When you're always available to help others, your availability transforms from a gift into an expectation. When you consistently provide assistance without any conditions or limitations, that help stops being perceived as generosity and starts being seen as your designated role. Consider this real-world case study that demonstrates the principle perfectly. A business consultant realized that his unlimited availability was actually damaging his professional reputation. Clients would call him at all hours, expect immediate responses to non-urgent questions, and treat his expertise as if it had no value because it was always freely given. He made a dramatic strategic shift. He raised his consultation rates by 300% and began declining 80% of incoming requests, accepting only projects that aligned with his expertise and schedule. The results were remarkable and counterintuitive. Clients began respecting his time more highly, valuing his advice more seriously, and his annual income tripled despite working fewer hours. Why did this transformation occur? Because scarcity signaled expertise and value, while selectivity communicated that his time and knowledge were precious resources worth investing in. The psychological mechanism behind this phenomenon is called hedonic adaptation. Human beings naturally adjust to positive treatment and begin expecting it as their new baseline. Your exceptional kindness becomes their normal expectation, which means they stop appreciating it as something special. What once felt like generous behavior becomes invisible background noise in their daily experience. Machiavelli understood this human tendency when he advised that benefits ought to be conferred gradually rather than all at once. He recognized that people value what they cannot easily obtain and take for granted what is freely available. But here's the strategic insight that transforms this knowledge into ethical power. You can apply this principle without becoming selfish or manipulative. Instead of helping everyone minimally, you can help fewer people significantly. Instead of being pleasant to everyone you meet, you can be exceptionally valuable to the individuals who truly matter. This creates deeper, more meaningful relationships while preserving your energy for maximum impact. Drop selective impact in the comments if you're ready to stop spreading yourself too thin and start creating concentrated value where it truly matters. The third cold truth reveals something that most people find deeply uncomfortable. Society consistently judges the mask rather than the face beneath it. Every successful leader throughout history has understood and mastered this reality. They demonstrate mercy and compassion publicly while making difficult, sometimes ruthless decisions privately. They appear naturally generous and kind while being strategically calculated about when, how, and to whom they extend their goodness. Examine the leadership patterns of history's most effective figures. Steve Jobs was publicly celebrated as an innovative visionary who transformed multiple industries, but privately, he was known for demanding absolute perfection from his teams and terminating employees who couldn't meet his standards. Winston Churchill inspired nations with his public speeches and apparent warmth, but privately, he was calculating, strategic, and willing to make decisions that cost thousands of lives to save millions more. Oprah Winfrey presents herself as universally generous and accessible, but she maintains extremely selective inner circles and carefully controls her public image. This behavioral pattern isn't hypocrisy or deception. It represents mature leadership and the ability to compartmentalize personal emotions from strategic decisions. Machiavelli observed that everyone sees what you appear to be, but very few people experience what you really are behind the public persona. Your reputation and influence are built primarily on public perception rather than private reality, which means managing your image becomes a crucial leadership skill. Here's the practical formula that allows you to maintain both effectiveness and integrity. Be tough on systems while remaining gentle with individuals. Maintain firm standards while staying flexible about methods. Be strategic about your public image while remaining authentic about your core values. This approach protects both your ability to create positive change and your personal moral compass. Type strategic image. If you understand the crucial difference between being fake and being strategically intelligent about how you present yourself to the world. The fourth cold truth addresses a resource management crisis that destroys most good people. Your energy, time, attention, and goodwill represent finite resources that must be protected and allocated strategically. Most naturally kind individuals suffer from what behavioral experts call resource hemorrhaging. They leak valuable time and energy in every direction until they have nothing substantial left for the activities and relationships that truly matter. Let's calculate the actual cost of unlimited availability. If someone spends just 2 hours each day handling unrequested favors, spontaneous help requests, and non-essential social obligations, that accumulates to 730 hours annually. That's equivalent to 18 full work weeks. That's nearly 5 months of productive time that could have been invested in building something meaningful, developing important skills, or strengthening crucial relationships. Consider what you could accomplish with 5 months of focused, uninterrupted effort. You could master a new skill, build a business, write a book, strengthen your most important relationships, or make significant progress toward your biggest goals. Instead, most good people unconsciously donate this time to other people's convenience and minor problems. Successful individuals operate according to clear resource allocation principles. They invest approximately 80% of their effort into the 20% of activities that generate the highest impact and satisfaction. They evaluate help requests systematically, rather than accepting them automatically based on emotional impulses. They direct their energy toward situations where it multiplies and creates lasting value, rather than where it simply disappears into other people's temporary problems. Machiavelli wrote extensively about the necessity of being both lion and fox in leadership. You need the lion's strength and courage to defend your valuable resources against those who would exploit them. You simultaneously need the fox's intelligence and cunning to recognize threats to your time and energy before they drain you completely. Your natural goodness without protective boundaries inevitably becomes other people's convenience and entitlement. Comment Resource Guard if you're ready to start protecting your capacity to create genuine, lasting impact rather than constantly responding to everyone else's immediate demands. The fifth cold truth challenges the relationship between intentions and results. Historical significance and personal satisfaction come from measurable impact rather than good intentions. History books remember and celebrate people who achieved meaningful outcomes, not those who simply meant well or tried hard without producing results. Here's a challenging question that reveals your true priorities. Would you rather be remembered as someone who was universally liked for being agreeable but achieved nothing meaningful, or someone who seemed demanding and difficult but actually improved lives and created positive change that lasted beyond their lifetime? Examine the leadership styles of history's most impactful figures. Abraham Lincoln appeared harsh and uncompromising when he maintained the Union through the devastating Civil War, but the ultimate result was ending slavery and preserving democratic government. Margaret Thatcher earned the nickname Iron Lady for implementing tough economic policies that initially caused hardship, but those decisions ultimately rescued Britain's economy from collapse and created decades of prosperity. Bill Gates demanded absolute excellence and long hours from Microsoft employees, creating a reputation for being difficult to work with, but his success enabled him to establish foundations that have saved millions of lives through medical research and global health initiatives. The most effective good people throughout history weren't necessarily the most agreeable or pleasant to work with. They were the most strategically focused on creating outcomes that served the greater good, even when those decisions required short-term discomfort or unpopularity. Real goodness sometimes demands making decisions that don't feel emotionally satisfying in the immediate moment. A parent who enforces boundaries and consequences is teaching responsibility and character development. A manager who maintains high standards and provides direct feedback is developing their team's capabilities and career prospects. A leader who makes unpopular but necessary changes is protecting the organization's long-term sustainability and everyone's future opportunities. Before making any significant decision, ask yourself this crucial question. Will this choice create the outcome that truly serves everyone's best interests, or am I just trying to make people like me in this moment? Focus on effectiveness rather than immediate popularity, because temporary approval means nothing if it doesn't lead to meaningful results. Machiavelli's most misunderstood insight stated that the end justifies the means, but this principle only applies when the end genuinely serves a greater good and the means don't violate fundamental ethical principles. Strategic decision-making isn't about becoming manipulative or selfish. It's about prioritizing long-term positive outcomes over short-term emotional comfort. Type outcome-focused if you're ready to prioritize creating real effectiveness over maintaining surface-level popularity with everyone around you. This is where everything transforms from theory to practical application. The goal isn't to eliminate your natural goodness or become heartless and manipulative. The objective is learning how to become strategically good, which means directing your kindness and generosity in ways that create maximum positive impact while protecting your ability to continue helping others long-term. The strategic goodness model operates on three fundamental pillars that work together to amplify your positive influence while preventing exploitation and burnout. Pillar number 1 is selective investment. Instead of helping everyone minimally, you choose to help fewer people significantly. Rather than spreading surface-level niceness across all your interactions, you create deeper, more meaningful impact in carefully chosen relationships. This approach builds genuine loyalty and appreciation rather than temporary gratitude that fades quickly. Pillar number 2 is conditional kindness. Your assistance comes with clear expectations of mutual respect and reciprocity. You establish and maintain boundaries that protect your ability to continue helping others. Saying no to requests from people who don't appreciate or reciprocate your efforts means you can say yes more powerfully to people who truly value what you provide. Pillar number 3 is strategic timing. You demonstrate strength and firmness when establishing respect and setting boundaries. You show compassion and flexibility when inspiring loyalty and building deeper connections. You control the narrative around your actions through purposeful, intentional behavior rather than reactive responses. Here's a concrete example of strategic goodness in action. A department manager realized that constantly saying yes to every request was creating chaos and reducing overall team productivity. She implemented a new policy. Instead of immediately agreeing to help with every problem, she would say, "Let me evaluate that request and get back to you with a decision and timeline." This simple change created space for strategic thinking rather than emotional reactions. The results were remarkable. Requests for her assistance decreased by 60% because people started solving problems independently before asking for help. However, team performance and job satisfaction increased by 40% because her focused help was more valuable and her time was used more effectively. That's strategic goodness in practice, creating better outcomes through better boundaries and more intentional decision-making. Comment strategic good if you can envision how this approach could transform your relationships, career prospects, and overall life satisfaction. Here's your comprehensive action plan for implementing strategic goodness over the next month, with specific steps and measurable outcomes for each week. Week 1 focuses on auditing your current patterns. Track every favor, help request, and time commitment you make for 7 consecutive days. For each instance, ask yourself whether this created mutual value and strengthened the relationship, or whether it represented one-sided depletion of your resources. Identify the specific people, situations, and types of requests that consistently drain your energy without providing reciprocal benefits or appreciation. Week 2 involves implementing strategic delays in your response patterns. Eliminate the habit of saying yes immediately to any request, regardless of how simple or reasonable it appears. Instead, use phrases like, "Let me check my current capacity and priorities, and I'll get back to you with a decision." This creates essential space for strategic thinking rather than emotional reactions, and it begins training others to respect your time and decision-making process. Week 3 requires practicing selective excellence. Choose no more than 3 people or projects that deserve your exceptional support and focused attention. For everything else, practice saying informed, respectful no responses that acknowledge the request while protecting your priorities. Observe how your concentrated help creates deeper impact and stronger relationships with your chosen focus areas. Week 4 is dedicated to measuring and analyzing results. Evaluate whether people are demonstrating more respect for your time and boundaries. Assess whether your most important relationships have become stronger and more mutually beneficial. Determine whether you feel more energized and purposeful, or whether you're still experiencing the drain and resentment that comes from unlimited availability. Machiavelli's ultimate insight stated that it is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. But modern strategic thinking adds this crucial refinement. It's better to be genuinely respected than either feared or loved, because respect provides the foundation for choosing when to demonstrate love and when to demonstrate strength. Here's the challenge that will determine whether you continue struggling with the costs of blind goodness or transform into someone who creates strategic, positive impact. For the next 30 days, commit to experimenting with strategic goodness principles. Stop trying to be good to everyone all the time and start being exceptionally good to the right people at the right times for the right reasons. This isn't about becoming selfish or abandoning your values. This is about becoming sustainable in your goodness, so you can continue helping others from a position of strength rather than depletion. Research data demonstrates that individuals who practice strategic kindness report 43% higher job satisfaction, 31% stronger personal relationships, 56% less emotional burnout, and 28% more measurable positive impact on others' lives. The evidence clearly indicates that strategic goodness produces better outcomes for everyone involved compared to unlimited, undirected kindness. If this analysis has challenged how you think about goodness, power, and relationships, subscribe to this channel for more strategic insights that prioritize real results over comfortable illusions. Share this video with someone who has been too accommodating for their own good, because sometimes the kindest thing you can do for good people is teaching them to be strategically good. Next week's analysis will examine the 48 laws of power, identifying which laws actually work in modern professional and personal relationships, and which ones will damage your reputation and relationships. Remember this fundamental truth. In a world that rewards strategic thinking, being strategically good isn't manipulation or selfishness. It's intelligent survival and sustainable impact.